Hello class, welcome back to our last class, very last class, the one in which we're going to meet with a real set designer, Diana Uribe. But before we go to that, which is going to be a next video, I just wanted to wrap up everything we've been talking about from the beginning and kind of also answer the question of how do you now take from all your preparation elements that you're going to eventually share with your designer. One thing I need to say is your first meeting with a designer is not actually the time or the moment to let out everything you know about the play, because you know a lot by now. You know also where you want to go. You might even have a lot of very concrete ideas about space. We've shared some of these with the people who were present on Friday, and it was great to hear how many, that some of you really had very concrete ideas. Instead, we're going to get into a meeting in which what you do is mostly listening, is opening up questions and then listen to what your designer has to say and open up to someone else's universe, the way that they've received the play, the way that makes sense to them, what they see in it, and especially in terms of a designer, what they see also beyond the play, because generally they respond in a very intuitive visual way. So I'm going to share my screen with you to, give me a second, share screen, there, and we're going to get back to a final slideshow so that we can look back and resume a little bit what we've done so far. I think this is not the one, I'm so sorry. I think I'm going to just pause the recording, find the right one, and I'll be back. Okay, I'm gonna stop that recording. Here, I found the right one now, so I'm going to go at it again. Sharing my screen. Here we are, class 6. So, here we go. Remember the first steps that we have gone through in the preparation, director's preparation. The first was dive deep into the play, from which the most important things that you take out is really the beginning of a dialogue between you and the play. In that dialogue rests eventually the vision, or let's say the interpretation of your play, and the angle in which you want to talk about it. From there also, you have found a series of inspirations, whether they were images or excerpts of movie or sounds, or depending on what type of artist you are, of course. And at this point, you kind of look back and pull out just a few of those that really resume well where you're at with your ideas about a play. It's almost as if from the point of view of your positioning as a director, of your vision, you shed a light onto everything that you've seen and touched upon, and then you choose which elements really speak to that vision. In the second, it's exactly what I'm talking about, is when you choose and deepen your vision, and then you dig under and you continue and you do the same work. Basically, you just go a little bit further. From the fictional space, you start developing a relationship to what the space in the play means, how it works, how it acts upon the characters, and vice versa. And then you have already not made up your mind, but kind of analyzed the actual concrete space in which you're in. And what you want to do there, you don't need anything for a first meeting with your designer, but you need to have in the back of your head the limitations, the restrictions, and the strengths of this place. So how you can deal with the audience, how you can allow the audience to participate in an active, it's always active no matter what, even if they're just witnesses, but in a most active way, in order to invite them to play a game with you, a game that has specific rules, which are theater conventions. So when you resume your vision, let's just talk for a moment about that. It's a little bit what I've already spoken about, but you go through, you have highlighted one main theme, which does not exclude any other sub-themes, but actually enlighten them. You know the character that you're looking through, whose eyes you're looking through. You have a series of visual, oral, intuitions, image research. So here I kind of collected, now I took from everything that I've done a few images that do speak to me about the play. There is a couple of images, the first two, that are emblematic about what the play communicates to me. The first picture, this one of the lady lying in water in her living room, and the second of the La Femme Maison of the Louis Bourgeois sculpture. As well as, remember, there was a sub-theme that interests me a lot, which is the one of motherhood, which I suspect that is perhaps the way to tap into something that is still a contemporary problem, which is the figure, how motherhood is conceived, and what it is, what are the limits that our society sets upon what motherhood is. The image down there, it looks like it's already an image about space, but it's actually really an image that captures what happens in this play. And it is an explosion, it is a crumbling, it is an awakening, it is a reality that just disappears all of a sudden and reveals whatever else is behind. The image, of course, of the lady lifted by a series of ibu, how do you say it? Oh my God, a Harry Potter bird. I have a blank right now. Anyway, talking here about the awakening of the animality, or mostly the wild side of the archetype of the wild woman. And the last one is also, it speaks to me about something that sits deep inside, which is fire as an element of rage as well, of emotions that we don't necessarily see through in the play, but that peek through in very many scenes, I think. And then I added these, I would want to really show to the designer as well, 2 images about space that starts to tap into my idea of nature, embodying also, and embodying and being an agent at the same time of the awakening of Nora and of her own savage self, if I can say. So it's a nature that more and more, like I love the door into something, into a magical world. And the other image is the one where apparently walls of a house disappear and show behind a huge lake and trees that come through the key here. Anyway, images like this. Another thing you do is you kind of go back to all the lines that you pulled out in your play and ask yourself, according to the way that I want to do this play, which ones do still resonate? Which one really speaks to me? And so I chose 3 of them. If I thought differently, I hid it because you wouldn't have liked it. That's how I survived. It would spoil our marriage. It would spoil everything. And I have other duties that are just as sacred. This is a little bit for me the movement in the play from who Nora was, then the fear of seeing it all about to crumble, and then actually understanding that was a very necessary step and the good one for her to move on, to understand who she is and to reclaim her selfhood. So here I kept the tarantula as this sub-theme that it's something that interests me a lot and scares me a lot, to tackle motherhood. And remember when I first spoke about Angelica Liddell and that incredible show where whatever came through that show, I believe had the same reaction that Ibsen's audience had when they first saw A Doll's House. So this is something that I read her script, and I'm working around these things to see if anything is possible in that sense. And I kept a few cinematographic inspiration that I had already, adding the another movie of Tarkovsky. Actually, it's called Stalker. And what interests me is the use of sound with water. It's a powerful movie in which there is never visible water until the end, where there is a tone, but you feel and perceive water throughout, and it really does something to the viewer, to the listener, and it adds an element, literally and not literally, metaphorically, that that adds so much to the meaning of what you're actually watching. So it's a use of sound that is non-literal. Oh, I'm so sorry. This is not where I wanted to go at all. I just went to Tarkovsky. There you go. And of course you keep a lot of what you've done in the research, but also you trim in there. So what interests me in there, I will not invest the team and the designer with everything that I've learned around the play, but just with the pieces of information that can allow them to understand why I've chosen to do what I've chosen to do. So the fact that it's so contemporary, for example. So I would tell about the story of Laura Keeler and where Ibsen got the play, how it was received. There certainly it needs to be placed into its context. I kept also some inspirations for me that belong to that time, where they create altogether. What you're trying to do here, you're trying to create sort of a big, large pool where everyone in the team can share and then build even beyond a pool of information, a pool of inspirations, a pool of the language that you together will share, of the universe that you're creating. And of course, I kept the article blaming Nora. Remember that one that I found at the beginning, and some notions about women's rights. Here is the blaming Nora one. Then when we go into the space, I just wanted to place for you, this is actually the Center 2, which unfortunately I couldn't give to you last week, but I just received them. And it's the la planimetrie, is the plan, how to say, the visual of what the theater looks like. So in everything we've been discussed, it's great to keep in mind with the designer for later on in your discussions that actually that amazing idea you want to realize won't be possible in this place, or that it can be possible, but you have to find several different ways. So, for example, here you can see what I was talking about, how there isn't really no way that you can light people very close to the audience in the proscenium, and that actually is the depth of the theater that is more interesting to use. I added also an image. There's a lot of stuff in there, but this is what kind of the stage looks like from the audience, which also tells you how raked the audience is. It's another interesting element. And then what you really want to do is you just prep a few questions for the designer. These are suggestions, but everybody going to any play will come up with a series of different questions. Like some that are very important for me are, what are your first impressions on the play? How did it speak to you? What did you see in it? Do you think it is still a relevant play to be done nowadays? Which character did you connect with the most? Which one did you connect with the least? And what do you think it is about, the play? This is where the what do you think it is about is where eventually you will lead your team to agree upon. That's going to be the way that you're going to tell these stories, the angle through which you're going to tell a story that can be told in as many ways as there are directors. I'm going to stop sharing. If I can get there. So having seen a little bit these, as you see, you are now kind of well prepared to start to open a conversation. A new process is happening from now on. And what is going to be interesting is that other people will bring you things that you haven't seen, that you don't agree with, that you might even, I don't know, like strongly disagree. And that will show you even further where the power of the play in relation to you, to who you are, of course. So I'm going to invite you to actually watch the next video, which is the one of the meeting with Diana, and then there will be just a short little one as a conclusion. And then our class will be over. Thank you very much for following.